Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At the Press Center of Россия Сегодня Media Group, we have this project, Religion and Worldview, and we have this news conference to sum up the visit of the Patriarchal Exarch of Africa, Metropolitan Leonid of Klin, to Uganda on May 18th, 21st. So he is back here, and he came here to answer your questions about this. We also have with us Chargé d'Affaires ad interim at the Embassy of the Republic of Uganda to Russia, Rutazindwa Gideon, and Director at the African Department and the Russian Foreign Ministry, Vsevolod Tkachenko. So, the first question is to the Patriarchal Exarch to sum up the outcomes of his visit to Uganda. So first of all, my greetings to all of you. I would like to thank the Embassy of Uganda and Mr. Rutazindwa Gideon for taking part in this news conference, and I would also like to thank Vsevolod Tkachenko, Director of the African Department of the Foreign Ministry, for their time and for coming here. I would also like to thank the Foreign Ministry of the Russian Federation, and I would like to personally thank Mr. Lavrov and Deputy Foreign Minister Bogdanov, and as well as head of the Department for External Church Relations, Metropolis Hilarion. They made this visit a great success. There was a lot of teamwork in it. If you allow me, I will just provide you some background information for those of you who may not necessarily know why the Russian Orthodox Church is now a key church presence in Africa. For several years now, as you know, the Russian Orthodox Church and the Orthodox Church in general have been getting a lot of negative signals from a number of Greek churches who agreed with the decisions made in Constantinople to recognize the Ukrainian schismatics to create the so-called Orthodox Church of Ukraine. The Russian Orthodox Church and many other churches do not recognize this Orthodox Church of Ukraine. However, Patriarch Theodore of Alexandria did support the Patriarch of Constantinople and recognized the schismatics in Ukraine. It is for this reason that the Russian Orthodox Church did not support this decision and did everything to make its voice heard and to make sure that the Patriarch of Alexandria learned about our point of view. At the same time, a lot of clerics in Africa, considering the position of Patriarch Theodore, they decided to join the Russian Orthodox Church. They did not want to be part of this schism in the Orthodox Church. We waited for 2 years for the Orthodox Church of Alexandria to change its position, and all our compatriots who were in Africa at the time, our diplomatic missions and tourists and all the others, went to the churches of the Patriarchate of Alexandria, and we kept saying that we share a single spiritual religious space, and we called on everyone to use the churches of the Orthodox Church of Alexandria. But when they took this decision, when the Patriarch of Alexandria took this illegitimate decision, and there were no steps, no statements to remedy this, we had no other choice but to recognize the desire of these clerics who wanted to join the Russian Orthodox Church And in December 2021, the Holy Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church formed the Patriarchal Exarchate in Africa. So we accepted the 102 clerics in the Russian Orthodox Church, and I have to say right now that this trend is gaining momentum right now. Unfortunately, the leaders of the Orthodox Church of Alexandria are not doing anything to fix this problem, to go back and to remedy this, so they're doing nothing. We have more than 180 clerics in our exarchate, and this trend is gaining momentum. Other countries are joining in. We're working with other denominations as well. And we have established a full-fledged presence in Africa, and we help others discover the Orthodox Church, including providing scholarships so that people come to Russia, so that people can study the Orthodox faith, its monasteries, and there are other educational programs that we offer. So this is in brief the background where we were before this visit, just to explain how we got there and how it all started. Thank you so much, Your Excellency Ambassador. What does this mean for Uganda, this visit, and what are your personal impressions of what happened over these days in Uganda? Thank you. Good afternoon. To better express my thoughts, I will speak English.
This visit was very important for us because Uganda has good relations with Russian people. And according to what our president said, as he received His Eminence, I welcomed him as a Christian. And he said that the president is a Christian and welcomes any other Christian who comes to work for the social transformation of our country, socio-economic transformation of our country. We have always looked at Christianity as an enlightenment force. So many of our people look at this visit as another way for the Russian people to participate in the development of our country. We welcomed his visit, and of course he'll be welcome again. We know that we're going to accomplish much as we cooperate together. Thank you.
Thank you. Спасибо большое.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Tkachenko, could you say something about how the Russian Foreign Ministry worked with the Russian Orthodox Church and why it matters so much in Africa? And what do you think about this visit? Thank you so much. Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Yes, you know, we have a lot of religions present in our country, and this is a major area of our cooperation on religious matters and in other aspects of humanitarian cooperation, and of course, for promoting ties and contacts at the civil society level, and is very important. And in this regard, the creation of the Exarchate of the Russian Orthodox Church was a major milestone in terms of reinforcing people-to-people ties, as well as in terms of satisfying those Russians who work and live in Africa. For the foreign ministry, what matters the most is that we reinforce people-to-people ties and civil society ties between Russia and Africa, which is very much important. We see a lot of confrontation and tension escalating across the world, while the church is about spreading the word of God, spreading the gospel. It promotes love and friendship. These are the key values that have a lot of importance these days. The foreign ministry has always supported civil society movements that promote our ties with Africa. I had the African department in the foreign ministry. For us, the African continent is very important. We love and we have a lot of respect for our African colleagues. We have a long-standing tradition of friendship and solidarity with Africa, especially when the people of Africa fought for their independence and to overcome the colonial rules. And Russia remembers this just as Africa does. So we try to preserve this memory and to further develop our momentum in cooperation. And the foreign ministry will always be there to facilitate in every possible way these civil society ties, to reinforce them and to fit them into the fabric of our relations with Africa. Thank you so much. So, Metropolitan Leonid, we are getting questions online as well as we can have questions from the audience. And one of the questions is about the meetings you had in Uganda. What are your impressions from these meetings? What did you discuss? And we had a correspondent accompanying you, a RIA Novosti reporter, and we learned that you brought icons and other objects to Uganda, like priest clothing. So could you provide some details about your visit? Uganda. This was not a coincidental choice, so probably there was a lot of God's will. We had a lot of meetings. I would like to focus on the main meeting we had. We met with the President of the Republic of Uganda, Mr. Museveni. This meeting left a very deep impression in me, so this person, the president of Uganda, knows his history, knows the international situation, and he's very well aware about Russia and the Soviet Union and bilateral relations, and he is also very knowledgeable about church affairs. We had a conversation that lasted about an hour. I found out a lot of new things. As Mr. Ambassador said, the position of the ambassador was full of kindness and warmth, and he gave us a very hospitable welcome. The fact that the head of a very respected country opened his heart and the heart of Uganda and showed that he is ready to work with us. And the president said that he is a Christian himself and he supports all our good initiatives, and he would be happy, he said, if the Russian Orthodox Church, apart from spiritual guidance, also contributes to the social economic development of the country, and this has always been our objective. And I've mentioned the numbers, how many clerics joined the Russian Orthodox Church. In Uganda, we have 14 clerics right now, 7 priests, and 7 deacons. And for them, we brought everything they needed for church services. All this was produced in Sofrina in Moscow, the Eucharistical kits and everything that can be needed for church services and other objects that are needed, like clothing and so on. We also had a number of meetings, several meetings, in fact, with local groups. And overall, I believe that our mission was a success. We discovered Uganda. This is a wonderful country, a well-balanced country, and we will be happy to work there. So what are the social humanitarian projects could you imagine for Uganda, for carrying out together with Uganda, maybe supported by the Foreign Ministry of Russia? So what would be the key initiatives there? So we will have a general agenda taking into consideration what the foreign ministry thinks and taking into consideration what our partners and brothers in Uganda think and want. We never want to act as a bull in a china shop. So what people of Uganda need, we will try to help them. This can be about healthcare services, or this could be about other humanitarian and social programs. So we will look at all of this. So this was just our first contact with Uganda. I believe that we need to be very cautious and we need to adopt a very balanced approach. After all, international relations is a very sensitive matter, so we want to keep it balanced. Your Excellency, what do you think could be the main areas of cooperation? So the healthcare was already mentioned, and reports that we've been getting during the visit, maybe it will be important to work on education in Uganda and maybe organizing trips to Russia, for example, to Russian religious schools, or maybe there can be cultural and religious centers that will open in Uganda with the help of the Russian Orthodox Church.
I believe that this visit opens another chapter for Russians and Ugandans to know one another, because, you know, putting relations in order is very important. And as I said, we have very positive relations with Russian people. As His Eminence reminded us, and the director, from the time of independence, Russia has always played a very key role in African countries, and especially in Africa, in the area of medicine, in the area of education. I myself was trained at the time of Soviet Union, way back in 1980 up to 86, and I went and worked in my home for 30 years. That's why I forgot some of the Russian language, but I came back now to work in the embassy. So to me, the first important aspect is that we must develop these interpersonal relationships so that we understand one another. Uganda and Africa in general have a lot to do with Russians, the Russian people. We have a lot to learn, to benefit from the Russian people, and of course the Russian people also have a lot to benefit from Africa. But for some reason, we have not developed our relations very well. There is a lot of misinformation. There is a lot of bias because of our colonial masters, the past. Now this is a time as we develop religious, socio-economic relations, we learn to understand one another and work well. Education is obviously an obvious area to cooperate. Medicine, there have been a number of Russian medical experts helping our people, even now. And medicine is, of course, a very important aspect. We don't have enough doctors. Doctors need to be trained. And Russian doctors need to come to Africa to understand some tropical diseases also, which are spreading everywhere. And so it would be a mutual beneficial exchange. Training our students, of course, should be accelerated. And economic development, I believe that Russia should come with a generous heart to technologically develop Africa. So, Your Eminence, as you take the missionary job, I believe that you should encourage industrialists to also take a missionary trip to Africa to bring technological development. I believe there is a lot of technology exchange. I know that Russian people are very generous. I say that because when I was studying here, they really treated us on equal terms with Russian students. They gave me enough information that when I went there, I was able to work. And I participated in the economic development of my country. So I believe that technological transfer is part of your missionary journey to Uganda and to Africa. So I believe you will encourage investors, you will encourage scientists, not fear Africa. Africa is no longer the country of crocodiles and whatever. No, I'm sure you don't even see any crocodile when you went there. Yes, so Russians should now come up openly. Don't worry about the bias that's going on. We don't have that bias. We are really open to the people of Russia. We are even open to the countries that, former Soviet Union countries. That's why we believe that soon there will be peace. So we are open. And I know that now that he has gone, I see behind him coming medics, investors, scientists who will participate in the development of our country and in the cultural exchanges also. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll try to do our best.
Спасибо большое. Всеволод.
Mr. Tkachenko, so what would be your take on the priorities for Russia-Uganda cooperation? Could you say anything about interest in the Russian language in Africa and in Uganda specifically? We got this question. Do we see an increase in the interest to Russian culture, Dostoevsky, Pushkin, the Russian language, Russian music maybe? And where do we see this specifically? Where there is the most interest in Russian culture and Russian language? Thank you for this question. The answer is quite simple. This is happening everywhere. I would not single out specific geographies or specific countries because our experience in working with our African friends and partners shows that today we have a lot of interest in the Russian language because this is part of Russian culture and people are interested in Russian culture. There was a lot of interest even before, but there was a certain pause related to the latest dramatic events. But now there is a new momentum in our relations and the Africans are becoming increasingly interested in learning everything that relates to Russia, including the Russian language. And we have a lot of requests for creating Russian language rooms in various African universities. And there is a very interesting program that is carried out by the Russian World Foundation. And trust me, now that the Russian businesses are expanding their foothold of the African continent, and there are more cultural ties, and Russia is increasingly present in various events in Africa, and in this context, studying the Russian language becomes a robust trend, which of course rejoices us, and all the organizations involved want to show Uganda and Africa our culture in its diversity. And to follow the values preached by most African countries is also important. This is how we achieve this mutual understanding. We share many values. We share a common understanding of what is good and what is evil regarding family values and social practices. And this is a major factor for promoting our humanitarian ties. And in this regard, of course, the Russian Orthodox Church on the continent can bring yet another additional and very important dimension to our ties, including our people-to-people ties, and so civil society ties and official ties. So I'm very glad that thanks to Metropolitan Leonid and his colleagues, there is added momentum in this regard, and I do hope that these efforts succeed. Any questions from the audience? Dialogue of Cultures website. My question is to Metropolitan Leonid. So how many Orthodox believers are in Africa and in Uganda? As far as I see, there will be the Russian Orthodox Church in Uganda, and there will also be the Orthodox Church of Alexandria in Uganda. How will ordinary parishioners choose where to go? Because in terms of the rules, they're pretty similar. You said that there are 14 Russian Orthodox churches there. So who are the parishioners? Are there only Russians, or there are also locals? I said 14 priests, African priests, who belong now to the Russian Orthodox Church, and they serve the Russian Orthodox Church. So every person decides for his or her own where to go, what church to pray in. It was never our missions. We never believed that our mission is to interfere with anyone, anywhere in the world. Let me repeat that we had to take this step in order to enable people to avoid the schism created by the Alexandrian Patriarchate. And until now, recently, no one paid attention to this problem, and we called on Patriarch Theodore many times to talk to his parishioners and to explain what is going on. But we believe that the position of the Patriarch Theodore has nothing to do with the truth and how things actually stand. Let me call things by their true name. So we witness a schism by the Patriarch of Constantinople, and the Patriarch of Alexandria supported this schism. We did not want to interfere, and but we had to. Every person chooses for him or herself what parish to visit, and His Excellency President Museveni, during our meeting, said he quoted the Bible, the Old Testament, and said that you learn who people are, but what they do, not what they say. So it is in the hands of God what will happen, and we will touch base sometime later, and you will see that the Russian Orthodox Church always brings a message of goodwill. It is absolutely not our objective to have a confrontation with our colleagues from Alexandria, the clerics with their diocese, but we want to have a broad discussion on this at the Synod of the Orthodox Church, and we expect them to refuse to recognize the illegal schism in Ukraine, and that they won't push people into the schism. As of today, we don't have the exact statistics, but by the next news conference, we will have the statistics. You just cannot get all the information where we're talking about hundreds of people, or thousands of people. Probably there are several thousand people. Our experts, people who work under contracts or mixed marriages. So next time, probably I will be able to share exact data with you. Metropolitan Leonid, how many parishes? Is there an understanding how many parishes are there, and how many do you need in there? So it will depend on our needs, on whether our mission will develop and how. So this is not about quantity, this is about quality. His Excellency Ambassador was right to say that we will work on a wide range of matters at the Church on behalf of the Russian Orthodox Church. Of course, this is about the pastoral care, but we understand that people need healthcare, they need education, they need food, people need to develop other sectors, and the Russian Orthodox Church will always be there to facilitate these efforts. It will depend on how we will move forward. We have very positive prospects with the support from His Excellency the President of Uganda, and with the help of the people of Uganda, we will succeed. Following up a question to His Excellency, a question we got online, President of Uganda said that he supports anyone who is Christian. How is Uganda working with the Russian Orthodox Church? Do you work with the Church of Alexandria on a state level? So are there any conflicts among local clerics in this regard? And the other questions in general, how many religions do you have in Uganda, and what is the dominant faith in terms of the population numbers? Thank you for your question. I can say we do not take part in any way in this conflict.
We even don't know about that conflict. Okay, we know, we have heard, but as far as Ugandans are concerned, they are really not keen to have these divisions because we have enough religious groupings, and that's why our president said you'll know them by their actions. So Uganda is open to every kind of religious activity. And that's in a way good in the sense that it has allowed people to see the truth, because people come from all over the place, from American churches, from different Catholics from different Korean churches from I don't know where, and they come with all sorts of agenda. But soon people understand who is for real and who is just fake. So I must say that the former Orthodox Church has been really, we knew about it, but they have not been very active. That's what I can say by observation. And I think his coming must have been one of the most important things that have happened in an Orthodox Church. So, as he said, you have a good opportunity now to show a good face for the Orthodox Church, because most people don't, okay, we know it's there, even they have a very important, it's recognized, the head of the Orthodox Church is recognized, he comes, but they've not been very active. So now as for how many denominations are there are very many. But if you want, I think according to the numbers, the Catholics are more. But that's the interesting thing. Numbers don't really reflect. So when I say there are more, that's not necessarily the most important. They are not the most effective. Yeah, so it's an open question. People come, people receive you as you come, and as they see what you are doing. If you are developing people spiritually, they see it. If you are bringing some transformation, enlightenment, people will know it. If you are just there to exist, also people will know it. So I think it's an open field, which is good. The Russian Orthodox Church can go and make their point, and Ugandans will judge. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's very important that there is peace between religions, that
Yes,
there
we
are
have
many
actually no
religions, many
conflict.
priests.
Yes, we have no conflict. Okay, maybe the only conflict that happened were the Islamic fundamentalists.
Fundamentals, they
And
are.
those ones we don't, yes, but they have been crushed because we don't accept that, as a government doesn't accept that. Otherwise, if you want to practice your religion, there is no discrimination. There is no government support for any particular grouping, and there is no persecution. Yeah, but of course, if somebody then comes with some, criminal tendencies, or like the Islamic fundamentalists, that one as well is unacceptable, and the government does not accept it.
Thank you very much. Vladika,
Metropolitan Leonid, could you say a few words about the situation in Africa in general in terms of Islamist fundamentalists? At the preceding news conference, we discussed, among other things, the dangers that certain African regions face, including the danger to the African population in terms of the persecution of the Christians for their religion. So any thoughts that you had during this visit, and how can the situation be improved in this regard? Well, first of all, in the days that I've spent in Uganda, we've been all over the country. I have not seen any negative developments, and trust me, I've seen a lot of things in my life. I've seen a lot of challenging situations. I've seen crime and I've seen war, and neither of this I saw in Uganda. I think that the country lives in peace right now. The country is developing. Everyone is doing their job, so I did not see any major security issues. As for some countries in the African continent, of course, there are a lot of outstanding issues. How they will be resolved, when, this is probably a question to them. This is their mission they've been fighting with, and in some country, of course, we've been talking about this a lot. When I worked at the Department for External Relations as the deputy head of the Department for External Church Relations, we had a meeting in Europe, just recently in Italy, and out there we spoke out in favor of protecting Christians who are dying. Sometimes the entire families are killed, priests and bishops are killed. So, of course, the Russian Orthodox Church has always kept a close eye on these developments, and we always work with the international community. We share our position internationally, and we ask everyone to listen carefully, because every time we make a call, there are hundreds of thousands of people who die, get wounded, families killed, uprooted, and the affected countries, they cannot develop themselves properly, so this undermines their development. I think that terrorists are inhuman because they proceed from unchristian values. They want to exterminate people for their religion. Not only is this unacceptable, but this is a crime in terms of international law and a crime against the Lord. Mr. Tkachenko, following up on this subject, what do you think about the creation of the Patriarchal Exarchate? How will it help fight terrorism and extremism in Africa? So, what do you think about this in terms of resolving these questions? Could the church help collect information on various cases when Christians are abducted or face other kinds of crimes? This may also relate to people belonging to other denominations. Was this discussed in any way at the Foreign Ministry? Well, you know, I would frame this question in a slightly different manner. All true churches, Christian churches, Islam and the Jewish faith, all these religions proceed from the values of good and goodwill that we've discussed, and all the threats to security and the terrorist threat, they exist in many parts of the world, and unfortunately Africa is not an exception. Where do they come from? They come from the extremist understanding of religion, which becomes a motto, driver for inhuman acts. So this is an issue the humanity as a whole is facing. We can say that Christians face a lot of threats because many radical movements they rely on a radical version of Islam, but the same applies to those who are just Muslims. They also become victims of this inhuman activity that has nothing to do with religion, in fact, and everyone knows this. Of course, what the Russian Exarchate in Africa will do, it will try to spread the true religion in Africa among its parishioners, primarily Africans. So, by spreading the good word, they will contribute to reinforcing peace around the continent in order to prevent religion from serving as a weapon. I think that this is what the work of the Russian Orthodox Church in Africa is all about. Metropolitan Leonid, about the language. In what is the language of church services in Africa, and specifically in Uganda? Do you use the Slavic language? Yes, we will use two languages. Almost all people speak fluently in Uganda, speak English fluently, so this is not an issue in any way for us. We will also use the clerical Slavic language. There will be Swahili in some other countries. It is also present in Uganda, but not as widespread as in other countries. There is French, a little bit of Portuguese, and we have all the materials translated, so this won't be an issue for us in any way. In the Russian Orthodox Church, unlike many other churches that have been mentioned recently, we don't have any language barriers. The Russian Orthodox Church is not just located in Russia. The Holy Bible and bilateral relations, in terms of these factors, we often follow the rules of every specific country. I used to work in North Caucasus, and I headed a diocese there, and there we served in the Ossetian language. Maybe it was not as popular as we wanted to be, and we also had services in the clerical Slavic language. We worked there, and we translated the Holy Scriptures, and by the same token, we work in other countries, and Africa will not be an exception in this regard. Just to quote from the Bible, we never divided in the Russian Orthodox Church in terms of their race, their ethnic background, their language, or the color of the skin. So this is something alien to all of us. Accusing the Russian Orthodox Church of being a neo-colonial power does not hold water. We always seek to bring goodwill and prosperity. And as Mr. Tkachenko has said, our goal is to spread the word of God. And for that, I would like to quote President Museveni. We need to show what we are worth by what we do, not what we say. As for church service, I also have a question. Priests will be trained among locals, the people of Uganda, or maybe those who graduate from the religious schools in Russia will go to Uganda. How will this work? And maybe this could also be not just about Uganda, but other countries as well. Only recently, I had a lecture at the School of Missionaries, and we discussed this question at length. There are young people, both boys and girls, ready to work in the Africa, and I think there are already applications to get scholarship for our schools. There was a young girl from Uganda who wanted to be present at one of our convents, and we're seeing this across Africa. We take a lot of care when choosing these candidates so that people who get their education in Russia, so who get to know the Russian Orthodox faith and what Russia is, And as mentioned by Mr. Tkachenko, it is important to understand that Russia is a multi-faith country. We have experience of working with various structures. The fact that representatives of other religions and that Uganda, several main denominations within the Christian faith, so we are not afraid. We come with peace. I've met with the representatives of the consular corps, and I met with a representative of Islam, of Catholicism, of the Catholic faith, and we discussed a number of topics, and we found common ground on all of them. So it goes without saying that we are very positive. We oppose terrorism, and we want to build warm and close ties. And we want to work with all countries, including Uganda, as we're discussing today. We want people to live better lives, to benefit from a better social safety net. And in this regard, the Church will be doing what it is designed to do, to spread peace, goodwill, to promote healthcare, education, and there are a lot of areas where we can work. We, as His Excellency Ambassador have said, many people from Africa studied in the Soviet Union. I think we will continue moving along these lines. I've already discussed this Patriarch Kirill. We have to thank him specifically for keeping a close eye on the African Exarchate. He already pre-approved scholarships for Africa. He's been to many countries, and he knows very well and understands the importance of the Russian Orthodox Church to be present in Africa. Could you explain quotas? What kind of quotas do you mean? I meant quotas for scholarships in religious schools. I studied abroad. Myself, I studied at the Athens University in Greece, and as His Excellency Ambassador knows, you need to study the Russian language. For 1 year, you study the Russian language, and we will do everything for those who come here so that they spend a successful year or several years. So this is not just about religious education in our seminaries and academies, as well as for other educational institutions where we can award scholarships under the auspices of the Russian Orthodox Church. Any other questions from the audience? If not, the last question regarding the plans in general. Are there any plans for the Russian Orthodox Church to do? Well, what do you plan to do over the next 5 or 10 years, like to build a certain number of churches, to open a certain number of schools for the people of Uganda, or maybe in other countries of Africa, if you have a clear picture? Well, statistics is always a very ungrateful thing, especially when someone from the church shares any numbers. We have to deliver on them. So I always follow this motto, and today many of our African brothers and sisters lost the parishes because of their position. So they do not have the churches where they could serve In Tanzania specifically, in Madagascar, there were criminal charges brought against our priests. Some of them ended up in prison, and we are working on this. And all this happened just because they stood up for the canonical rules of universal orthodoxy. So there is a lot of work. We will have to build a lot of churches, but we will proceed on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes we will be building major cathedrals, sometimes a prayer room would be enough, but for us in general, this is a very important stage in expanding our African footprint, so maybe this will be somewhat eccentric when we say that like we won't build 100 churches. We don't need to build 100 churches. We need to have this system-wide, large-scale approach. And I promise to provide you numbers on the number of parishers. So if we have big numbers, we will have to build our own spiritual centers and Eucharistical complexes, but we need to focus on paramedical institutions, educational institutions, kindergartens. We need to focus on helping mothers and expecting mothers. And we need to do everything to inform the people of Uganda about our history and our language. I've been to many African countries for 9 years. I represented the Patriarch in the Patriarchate of Alexandria until 2013. I've been to many places and I've seen many things. We have the Russian Science and Culture Centers in many countries. Sometimes we will work with them. Sometimes we will open our own Russian language courses. And sometimes we will just enable people not simply to discover a wonderful building. So it's not just about seeing domes or crosses, but they need to understand that this is primarily about the spirit, about what we do with these values and how we do good, and this is what we will do in Africa. How quickly will we move forward and how. So this is, of course, a major event we're talking about anyway. The formation of the Exarchate in Africa is a very major development. We're now working on its structure, and the time will come when we will start adding substance to its work. Now it's too early to have any clear deadlines. If we meet every 6 months, for example, I will keep you updated on everything that is happening in Africa, together with the Foreign Ministry, together with the Department for External Church Relations of the Moscow Patriarchate, together with our mission in Uganda. We will share with you the latest development on what is going on and how. Thank you so much to all of you, Your Excellency, Your Highness, and thank you to all the journalists who took part in our work today. Thank you to all of you.